Story 1. In this text, seeing the typical Reddit user discuss geopolitics is like an insurance salesman attempting to diagnose cancer. Story 2. The Iranian leadership has a long history of working through proxies and asymmetric warfare. They are aware that they cannot confront the United States directly and will not risk losing their influence in the country. An increase in cyber attacks and disinformation efforts is expected. They recently signed a strategic agreement with Russia, which significantly influenced the social media landscape. Attacks on United States interests by rebel groups worldwide are likely. The Houthis have been subdued for now, and Hamas and Hezbollah have lost capabilities, but they will aim to rebuild, and Iran will likely support other groups. Diplomatically, Iran will try to prevent other Middle Eastern groups or countries from normalizing relations with Israel, although Israel is actively working to improve its own diplomatic efforts. Story 3. The past few weeks have shown that Iran's retaliatory options have been significantly degraded. I do not believe they are capable of striking United States or Israel targets with devastating force. Most likely, they are sponsoring smaller-scale terrorist attacks. Story 4. I don't know. All I hope is that what is going on in the world ends. All the issues end. We all deserve peace, happiness, and of course, safety. Story 5. Their official media response was not threatening. It simply condemned the United States based on international laws. Story 6. They could shut down the Strait of Hormuz, attack the American fleet, and launch more missiles at Israel. Donald Trump is too unwise not to massively over-retaliate to these and other attacks, which may draw other nations into the conflict to challenge American power. I cannot miss this opportunity to point out that Donald Trump is both the most imprudent public figure in over a century and, therefore, a catastrophic choice to lead the United States of America during a real conflict. The odds of emerging from this moment without devastating long-term effects on the United States and the world worsen the longer he remains in power. Story 7. What they did last time was launch some missiles near an American base, but not close enough to actually kill anyone. It was done to create the appearance that they were taking action. Story 8. Based on how their rhetoric often plays out, they will loudly threaten massive reprisals and claim they are prepared for our war. Then they will likely do nothing for 3 years and forget about it. Story 9. If they are foolish, attacking United States bases, resulting in the deaths of American soldiers, would be their response. That would invite United States retaliation, and the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, might even consider regime change. If they are not foolish, then doing nothing, essentially by claiming United States attacks did not significantly impact Fordow, which is untrue, and stating that the United States cannot destroy Iran's nuclear knowledge would be their approach. Yes, this might be perceived as weakness, but the majority of the Iranian people do not want United States retaliation. Their foremost priority, I believe, is regime survival. So, let us see whether they are foolish or not. Story 10. They will continue to attack Israel in small campaigns. Then they will attack United States assets and will be bombed even more by the United States. Story 11. I do not believe they have the ability to do anything to affect the mainland United States. Therefore, I expect them to burn more flags. Story 12. If Iran's nuclear sites were hit publicly, Iran would likely issue strong condemnation, rally domestic support, and call on allies Russia and China for backup at the United Nations. Militarily, small-scale retaliation could occur, such as proxy strikes through Hezbollah or attacks on United States bases in Iraq and Syria, without full-scale war. Quietly, Iran would probably increase nuclear development underground and move key assets deeper into hardened facilities. Story 13. Israel has dominated the Iranian military for the past 7 days with their air force alone from thousands of kilometers away. The United States Air Force has 2,000 combat aircraft. Israel has about 400. This does not include the United States Navy's additional hundreds of combat aircraft. Israel has maintained air superiority over Iranian skies from the beginning. Iran has limited options in terms of directly engaging the United States militarily without facing severe counterattacks or consequences. Story 14. So many flippant comments here. What you are forgetting is this is now a country with nothing to lose, so I would be a bit nervous. Story 15. Unless they have deceived American and Israeli intelligence, which is unlikely, they have lost their only bargaining chip. Their terrorist proxy forces are defeated. They cannot build a nuclear bomb anymore and clearly never had the capability to wage a conventional war. Otherwise, Israel would not have air superiority over Iran. They are finished. It is no longer about what Iran's next move will be because they do not have one. They will not be able to close the Strait of Hormuz, nor do they have the ability to challenge the United States Navy. They could strike a few American outposts in Iraq, but those attacks will be anticipated and any damage will be minimal at best. The real question is what Israel and America will do next. Regime change? Assassinate their dictator? Occupation? All options are on the table. Story 16. I feel there is still some fear of Iran. Iran is weak. They lost everything they worked for over the past 40 years in just 8 days. They have already lost. Story 17. Has anyone considered that Iran might already have a nuclear weapon or enough nuclear material to make a dirty bomb? Story 18. I hope the civilians start to overthrow the regime. As for the regime itself, I hope it is too fractured and the leadership too broken to coordinate anything serious. Story 19. Kicking, barking a lot, issuing some religious edict. Nothing new from an Islamic and terrorist dictatorial country since 1979. Story 20. They have been told that if they attempt retaliation, the United States and Israel can cause limitless damage. Iran needs to back down. Story 21. Sky is the limit. There are many terrorists and many American targets with a lot of time. Because of former President Donald Trump's ally Vladimir Putin, Iran has extensive knowledge about the United States. Story 22. They will cut off shipping lanes in the Strait of Hormuz, as they always do, and watch as global inflation rises. This is not much of a prophecy since they are already doing this. Story 23. Fire every ballistic missile they have before those stores are targeted and destroyed. Expect large barrages as the Iron Dome system is already degrading. Expect strikes against United States bases and assets, especially those assisting missile interception. We are in this now, and it is not going to be clean or easy. What a mess. Story 24. Iran has no friends inside or outside the Middle East. The theocracy will crumble, normal leaders will take over, and the population will celebrate. Story 25. The question is, what will Israel and the United States do? Will Israel continue its effort to destroy the Iranian nuclear program and even pursue regime change? Iran is now so weak it can only hope that Israel and the United States decide they have done enough damage. Story 26. Nothing. If they had any serious reply, they would have already gone through their protocol and initiated it. In serious countries, these kinds of situations are war-gamed ahead of time, so there is no need to deliberate if leadership or key facilities are targeted first. Iran is the most pathetic country on the planet. They get attacked and have no response. We should not hold back at this point. They are incredibly weak right now. Story 27. Fold. They are doomed, and their only allies are inactive. One is busy slowly losing their own war. Story 28. Launch a number of missiles at United States bases that are going to get shot down. I do not know why people think the Iranian military is anywhere near the same level as the United States. Iran's air defense was completely destroyed in 2 days by Israel. They are not a real threat to the United States. Story 29. If the regime thinks they are in danger of being toppled, or if they want to act spitefully as they go out as martyrs, my prediction is that they will use some of their remaining nuclear material to create a low-grade dirty bomb that they detonate in the Strait of Hormuz. Mining the strait with naval mines would be cheaper but more obvious and preventable. Sinking a few larger ships in it would have the same effect. Both actions would impact the world economy and drive up prices worldwide, as 20% of oil passes through the strait. However, both would be temporary before the United States Navy sails in and removes the threat. A dirty bomb is easier to conceal, and the implications are massive. Radiological contamination of air, water, and vessel surfaces across the strait would affect parts of Iran, but also many of America's allies, including nearby Sunni countries. This would create massive disruption to global shipping, even without large-scale casualties. A maritime exclusion zone would have to be established, forcing shipping routes to be reconfigured around contamination zones. Insurance on shipping would skyrocket or be completely withdrawn in the Gulf. This would likely collapse shipping in the Gulf, trapping ships already there for weeks or months. Naval and environmental response mobilization, including radiation mapping, cleanup, and decontamination, would be required. Oil prices could double overnight, exceeding $200 per barrel. Ports would shut down, desalination plants would go offline, leading to water crises in the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and Oman. Tourism, trade, and foreign investment across the Middle East would collapse. Global markets would react as if a nuclear exchange had occurred, even if it had not. This would cause havoc worldwide and might cause political backlash against leaders such as BBN and Donald Trump. Trump could potentially face impeachment a third time, especially given reports that he only notified members of his own party, not the full intelligence community. Iran likely would not use their enriched material, as it is being closely monitored or sought after. However, they could use cesium-137. They have a significant amount already. It is highly soluble and cleanup would take 6 months to 2 years. They could probably retrofit a ballistic missile to target not only the Strait of Hormuz but also U.S. military bases or Israeli cities. This scenario is extreme, but Iran is already cornered, and its leadership may not be rational. If they believe their regime is ending, their next actions are unpredictable. Story 30. They will complain. If they are responsible for anything else, the United States and Israel will bomb their refineries and power grid, shut down their straits for trading, and choke them out financially. The regime will change again, and hopefully the world becomes a better place. Story 31. Mainly proxy attacks on United States interests such as shipping traffic in the Red Sea. Continued and extended support for Houthi groups and similar organizations. Story 32. The game of risk movement rules. 1. Reinforcements. At the start of each turn, players receive armies based on the territories they control and continents they hold. Attacks. Players can attack territories adjacent to their own if they are occupied by an enemy. Attacks involve rolling dice, up to 3 for the attacker and up to 2 for the defender to determine casualties. The attacker must leave at least one army behind in the territory they are attacking from. Free move. At the end of a turn, a player can move any number of their armies, leaving at least one behind, from one controlled territory to an adjacent controlled territory. This free move can be used to consolidate armies for defense or to prepare for future attacks. Territory cards. Players can collect territory cards and trade them in for reinforcements. Continents. Holding entire continents grants bonus reinforcements, making them strategically important. Winning. The game ends when one player eliminates all other players by conquering all territories on the board. Iran is currently at Stage 1 and waiting to receive reinforcements based on their allies' territory cards. They are also considering their second stage action, which is attacks. The United States just finished their free move and territory card trades. They have also collected a large continents bonus for their next turn, so Iran needs to consider this before enacting their second stage movement, knowing that the United States' next turn will be even more powerful. Story 33. Hopefully their leader will go into hiding and we will hunt him down like a dog, just as we did with Saddam Hussein. You can run, but you cannot hide. I am sure we will see a rash of suicide bombings everywhere. They seem to thrive on that behavior. Story 34. Terrorist attacks only harm innocent civilians who have no involvement in these issues. Story 35. My guess. The same move they always seem to take. A lot of loud threats and yelling, followed by much less severe actions than promised. Story 36. Remove the Ayatollah. It is clear that he is taking on more than Iran can handle, and the average Persian will suffer because of his unforced errors. Story 37. They will stop trying to build a nuclear bomb, become a peaceful neighbor, join the global community, and become free and prosperous. Story 38. They will shut down the Straits of Hormuz, then they will start hitting all the soft targets of the United States of America around the world. If we have learned anything from Ukraine, this may be a very costly mistake by the United States of America with not much to gain. This should be the bigger question. What did the United States of America gain or desire to gain by this move? Story 39. I think the important question is, what will the United States' next move be? Former President Donald Trump's announcement ended with religious references. I do not think I have heard him speak like that before. His speechwriter wanted that included for a reason. If there is a terrorist attack on United States soil, it will empower the Christian fascists to deploy more troops. There may be more flying bans and possible actions against domestic Muslim communities. Iran is heading toward regime change. I am not sure who the Central Intelligence Agency and Mossad's preferred candidate is, but it will probably start with Pahlavi being handed the reigning monarch position in advance of democratic elections. There needs to be global systemic change, but it is unlikely to happen. Story 40. Not making a political judgment in this response, just looking at what has happened so far. From what I have heard, realistically, unless they have many hidden assets somewhere, all they can do is fire more missiles at Israel and the United States. I doubt they have any functional nuclear assets to threaten anyone with, so regardless of the politics, it seems like the only two options they have are to keep doing what they are doing or negotiate a ceasefire, which seems unlikely. Story 41. Honestly, they have no cards to play. I think it's time for the Iranian people to overthrow the Ayatollah or see their country get bombed to smithereens by the Americans and Israelis. It is no longer about politics. It is about self-preservation at this point for the Iranian people. The war is essentially over. Well played, Israel. Story 42. New TikTok dances and cry about it. I'm glad we addressed this directly, and hopefully we can stop wasting time with Israel. Resolve the issue with Iran. Story 43. Surrender and the good people of Iran take over the government from the evil monsters who have brutally controlled their lives. Story 44. Go after everything that floats in the Strait of Hormuz. Coordinate with the angry fundamentalist militias in Iraq to conduct strikes on any bases with United States personnel. Promise Vladimir Putin control in exchange for arms and intelligence. Story 45. They will ship tens of thousands of Iranian flags to liberals throughout the United States, and they will wave them in support of their new motherland. Story 46. Their next move will not be a nuclear weapon. Their next move will not rely on their allies or proxies, who are all defeated or exhausted now. Story 47. The smart move is to approach other countries and express a willingness to bring back inspectors and negotiate another deal. Appeal to Donald Trump's vanity to encourage him to restrain the Israelis if possible. As much as it may bruise their pride, they should accept American demands. I understand that it would be extremely painful and humiliating to do this, and I would loathe to do it too, but it is the best way forward. Is it fair? It depends on who you ask. Certainly, the Iranians would not see it as fair, but they are unlikely to be able to defeat the United States, and Donald Trump is eager to escalate. With enough time, they might outlast the Americans, but their country would suffer greatly. If I were the Iranians, I would seek to force a diplomatic solution. Story 48. Attacking American assets anywhere overseas, including spoiling waterways. Long-term attacks on United States soil are possible. It all depends, I guess, on where diplomacy goes in the next few days. Story 49. At least the United States has a fully capable and experienced person leading the Department of Defense Terrorism Prevention Unit. Their name is Thomas Fugate. Good luck. Story 50. They are going to talk confidently, but they will back down. Then they will triple their efforts to fund terrorist attacks against Israel and the United States. Story 51. Iran is going to capitulate. Nothing will happen. All they do is talk. Hopefully, the United States of America can liberate the nice Iranian people from this oppressive, backward regime. Story 52. I cannot wait to wave at the Make America Great Again patriots who will go to the front lines to defend Israel. Ahem. America. Bless their hearts. They voted for a liar. They should go and die for him. Story 53. Much like how she told Russia not to use nuclear weapons on Ukraine when they wanted to, there are most likely many factors at play at the moment. There are probably secret BRICS conversations and other discussions happening. Reddit tends to rely too much on CNN and Fox News commentators. Story 54. The big hit would be to close the Strait of Hormuz until this is over. A worldwide recession from a huge oil price spike would result within a short time. Not sure if they are willing to hit China, as China needs that oil that hard, but they may be looking to do significant damage. It will also annoy the neighbors whose oil is blocked, but that's something they are likely prepared to endure. The revenge attacks will come later. They likely learned something from the Ukrainian shipping container attack, and the United States Air Force could be hit very hard by that sort of attack. They could also carry out many other asymmetrical attacks. The immediate move was to launch a new salvo of missiles at Israel, which won't annoy anyone who doesn't already hate them. Story 55. Iran will not take any action because they know that if they try to go to war with the United States of America, it will be a very short war. Story 56. I don't know, but Iran needs to be very careful right now. Trump is obviously not joking when it comes to Iran. I hope they take the hint and back down. I honestly think everyone is surprised by the superiority of American arms and intelligence, Trump included. China and Russia just got a slap right to their faces. Iran is in BRICS and is also allied with Russia. The United States is making Putin and Xi look weak and powerless. This is a risky move. This decade is not heading in a good direction. Story 57. Iran can influence higher gas prices. Iran is a major oil producer and a member of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, which collectively influences global oil supply and prices. Iran is a harbor and sanctuary for terrorists. Expect terrorism when it is least expected. Consider what happened when we invaded Iraq. Story 58. We are following the same circular path as our parents, grandparents, and so on. Same agenda, different faces. Story 59. Every base in the Middle East is likely a prime target. I feel bad for anyone deployed there right now. Story 60. I have to imagine they will actually begin trying to get nuclear weapons now, right? Like all other paths have failed. The only way to avoid being threatened is to have the deterrent. Story 61. A choice between fundamentalism or survival. It will be interesting to see which they choose. Either way, the common people of Iran will suffer. Story 62. Iran is not going to attack American personnel directly. They do not want to provoke American missiles or bombs. They will probably continue launching missiles into Israel. Story 63. If they really wanted to terrorize, they could use a dirty bomb, which they have always had the capability for. I imagine they could make Israel uninhabitable for a few hundred years if they truly saw no other option. Story 64. Chill while a wave of virulent anti-Semitism arises as the deaths of United States victims of the coming retaliation are blamed on Donald Trump. Joining Israel's war splits the country, triggering massive anti-war protests and the imposition of martial law. Story 65. They will activate the operatives and capture Lee Syed, administer 1,000 milligrams to him, and break him because he has not been training as he was supposed to. Story 66. Call in all the chits from the various anti-Israel groups they have been supporting to attack from as many fronts as possible. They might continue using old, obsolete missiles from backstock to strategically deplete the Iron Dome and then start targeting seriously with their hypersonic arsenal. They took notes from the Ukraine war. I guarantee it. Story 67. It's simple. Both countries go to work primarily because the United States will economically benefit from this and it can capture natural resources. At the end of the day, as always, it is about the money. Sadly, Iran is likely to become another Iraq and Afghanistan. Story 68. Sink American shipping. Either a military strike against a warship or, more likely, something cargo-related in the Red Sea via proxy. Story 69. They do not have much to do. They are trying to find a way to negotiate a better deal, but they cannot withstand all the pressure and attacks from two of the most lethal armies in the world. Story 70. Close the strait and attack Bahrain's fleet of ships. Most have already evacuated. I think the strait would cause the United Kingdom to declare war because everyone uses it for shipping. Story 71. Just keep bombing. The Iron Dome is already failing and will fail even more. That will put Israeli citizens' loyalty to their government to the test. Story 72. Short term, probably just more attacks against Israel. Long term, they will probably support terrorists in the United States. Story 73. If I had to guess, considering they supply Russia with unmanned aerial vehicles, and they experienced an unmanned aerial vehicle attack, I would not be surprised if they learned from that effectiveness and used unmanned aerial vehicle strikes from trucks against American targets within the United States. However, realistically, they cannot do much other than hope their diplomatic partners support them. Story 74. My Iranian friend who still has family there says tensions are very high right now. Her cousin mentioned there is a lot of quiet discussion about potential cyber operations. They are apparently more focused on digital warfare than traditional military moves. Story 75. Extremists bombing random Western cities. We act surprised that it happened, but it is inevitable. Blowback is a reality. Story 76. If they are smart, you will not notice it. Use the extreme Christian side of Make America Great Again as a wedge and go all Antichrist in propaganda against Donald Trump. Combine that with a lot of asymmetrical warfare to make the Middle East very expensive for the United States to be involved in. Story 77. In front of their people, they will act strong. When talking to America behind closed doors, they will beg for peace and not to lose their opportunity to kill Jewish people indefinitely. Story 78. Closing the Strait of Hormuz is a strategic concern in global maritime security. The Strait of Hormuz is a critical choke point for the transportation of oil and gas, linking the Persian Gulf with the Gulf of Oman and the Arabian Sea. Any disruption to this passage can significantly impact global energy supplies and international trade. Story 79. It alone cannot afford a war with the United States, but if other parties come together to support Iran, then it might be a bigger catalyst for a global war. Story 80. In terms of an immediate move, I would guess there would be condemnation of the United States attack from Iran, maybe some kind of call to arms from terror cells around the Middle East that have not been dismantled by Israel. I personally think the biggest move would be to block the Strait of Hormuz. Honestly, even if they block the Strait of Hormuz, they would be defeated by the United States Navy, even if it meant full escalation. Unfortunately for Iran, they are probably in their weakest state due to Israel dismantling Iran-affiliated terrorist groups and do not have many cards to play. There is one more thing, but take it with a large amount of skepticism. I wonder if pushed hard enough, Iran would detonate a dirty bomb somewhere in Israel. There are claims that, even though they have not achieved the required amount of enriched uranium for a complete nuclear warhead, they still have enough to create a dirty bomb. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.